Chapter 5. Section 1. In the mid 1700s, Europe were locked and worldwide. In the 1730s, traders were crossing the Appalachians in search for fur, Three times between 1689 and 1748, France fought Great Britain for power three times. In 1757, William Pitt became new head of the British government. In 1763, the fall of Quebec made France.
Fort Duquesne, Braddock's first objective, is held by the French and their Indian allies. It stands guard at the crucial forks, controlling all traffic through the Ohio country. To assault it is an ambitious plan. General Braddock names George Washington one of his chief aides. Though it's not an official British commission, Washington jumps at the opportunity to serve alongside the highest-ranking British officer on the continent.
The men are looking very good indeed.
In June of 1755, Braddock's march to the Ohio country finally gets underway. A long, thin column of wagons, artillery, horses, and camp followers, 4 miles long. Axemen clear the way. It's a logistical feat that only the British would attempt. Marching army through 100 miles of dense forest, steep mountains, and muddy river crossings. After a week, they have gone only 22 miles. After 3 grueling weeks, the British Army finally approaches the Monongahela River, just a few miles south of Fort Duquesne. Morale is high. General Braddock has led his army nearly 100 miles. His engineers built log roads to cross the swamps. A company of sailors rigged block and tackle to hoist the heavy cannon over the hills. The worst is behind them. Washington is impressed. This is the kind of British officer the young Virginian aspires to be. When word reaches Fort Duquesne of the advancing British column, the French realize their only hope is to ambush the British as they cross the Monongahela River. They encounter each other deep in the woods. Beaujeu leads the warriors and Canadians into the woods. He'll fight the battle the Indian way. In the beginning, it looks as if the highly disciplined British will prevail. Their volleys prove deadly immediately. But once the Indians and Canadians slip into the hills on either side of the British, everything changes. Washington and the other officers struggle to keep their men in formation. While the Indians and Canadians snipe at them from both sides. The British start to fall back, but on the narrow forest road, they collide with the troops behind them. Chaos ensues. Deadly tangles of redcoats massed together, making pathetically easy targets.
Get back to the fight!
Get over here!
Hold your line, men! Hold your line!
Permit the Virginians to fight as the enemy does. We know the Indian mode.
Certainly not, sir. Mind your place. Go cover!
The general's been hit!
Fort Duquesne, Braddock's first.
Section 2. By 1760, the British and their Indian allies had driven France from the Ohio Valley. Pontiac's war convinced the British officials to stop the British subjects from settling in the West. In 1764, Grenville persuaded the British Parliament to pass the Sugar Act. This act put taxes on molasses. Grenville also persuaded the Parliament to pass the Stamp Act. This act put taxes on any document. Then the colonists said no taxation without representation. By the 1770s, the colonists are brewing tea twice a day. In 1773, the Parliament passed the Tea Act. This act let the British bypass the merchants and sell directly to the colonists. When the colonists replied to the tax by a boycott, and a Philly poet, Henry Griffith, urged on American women to. In 1773, late November, 3 ships loaded with tea reached the Boston harbor. By 10 p.m. on 1773, colonists dressed as Indians made the biggest teapot in the world in history. This was called the Boston Tea Party.